stuff like that talks about their symbolism in us as like flesh and like how we retain immortality.
I'm gonna record this. Keep going.
I've pretty much covered it all. I just go over it again. Okay, so this book, the chapter I'm on right now is called Revelations, and it's talking about how, long story short, back in the times of like Adam and Eve, when the great serpent, got Eve to get the apple and give it to Adam, he took a bite and all that shit. Basically, what happened when Adam done that is it separated his omnipotence from his body, his omnipotence being his soul. And that's why he only lived I think it was 989 or some shit years old. And then as the farther his family tree got down, the less they lived. But they retained that immortality. It was just confined in a flesh prison, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And so this chapter is called Revelations, and it talks largely in portion about it talks about balance, like equilibrium. It talks a lot about how it's important to be intelligent, but at the same time it's important, equally important to be spiritual, and how they correlate. I don't remember which one it is, but it's kind of almost mirrors like one of the 7 Hermetic principles, the polar opposites and stuff like that. It's super interesting. It talks about the symbolism in the Bible with key angelic figures like Michael and Gabriel, and talks about basically, for the most part, states that intelligence, because if you look it over basically the ages that have already preceded us, you look at people like Albert Einstein, highly intelligent guy, manic depressive. You look at people like Edgar Allan Poe, brilliant poet, brilliant artist, manic depressive. Mm-hmm. Every genius or person with a high IQ tends to be cynical and pessimistic, and tends to have those qualities, because basically what this talks about is intelligence is it's like a reference or like symbolism to the devil, and that's why it's important to balance out your intelligence with your spiritual principles.
I get what you're saying.
Your spirituality, because if you lean too hard on one of them, if you become too spiritual, you become ignorant to open-mindedness and knowledge, which is a big common theme in religion nowadays. Mm-hmm. If you become too intelligent, you become manic depressive, or you get cynical or pessimistic, and it's just a downward spiral. So it talks about equilibrium. That's kind of the key to, it's working on both at the same time, or maybe working on one for a little bit and then the next one, and making sure that your equilibrium is always equal and balanced. And that's kind of where it states the symbolism in like the devil and angelic figures, kind of hints at the fact that they're not necessarily figures or separate omnipotent souls. They're more or less symbolism or representations,
like laws and shit.
Yeah, like laws or principles, or kind of like a reference, because in reality, if you think about it, I mean, how fucking hard would that be to break all that shit down into words, unless you know what I mean, wrote like a story, especially back in, when the fucking Bible was wrote and shit like that. People didn't have a lot of the words that we have now to explain different meanings and touch on different subjects. Fucking
Barry's got something in my book that Barry's got right now. In the beginning of it says that truth was brought into the world by symbols and names and archetypes and shit like that. That's the only way it can be explained. You know what I mean? You can't explain truth to somebody. You have to put it in a story or put it in a.
Yeah, there has to be a. I mean, that's why the ancient Egyptians, highly intelligent, highly prominent in, you know, lots of ancient literature and symbolism and stuff, and they actually used symbolism or hieroglyphs to communicate this shit. Like, that's largely, I mean, that was the best form to do it back then, and I mean, it worked. You know what I mean? It's just kind of, I don't know, it's kind of one of those things. There's only so far you can go in your time, you know what I mean, to project something, like, you know, highly sought knowledge, I guess you could say, highly important knowledge.
Yeah.
I mean, you look back at, you know, the course of human history, there's symbolism everywhere. In the Bible, in every culture, every religion, there's symbolism. That's because symbolism, just like, totally off topic, but you know, you remember a while back when people were posting online, like, the photos of, like, Disney, and they had, like, dicks in the towers and shit like that? Subliminal messages. Yeah. Symbolism. Yeah. You know what I mean? It reaches your subconscious.
I was just thinking, like, what does the unconscious look like? What does essence look like? What does the fucking unmanifested look like? Mm-hmm. You know, what does that idea or that knowledge, you know what I mean, look like in the manifested world?
Yeah.
Symbolism.
Yeah.
That's what, you know what I mean?
Another part, this, which I really liked, the way we'll read it tomorrow or something, but in this chapter that I'm reading, it talks about there being two parts to kind of like basically like a human. You think of it like a circle, and then a circle inside of a circle. Okay. That outer circle be representing your intelligence, like the devil or Satan. You know, being highly knowledgeable but highly pessimistic. You know, shit like that. And then the inner circle represents Adam and what made him omnipotent, which was he was highly spiritually fit, if that makes sense, to the point where no matter what happened to his flesh body, you know, he was fucking, I mean, he was omnipotent, he was a god, basically. And when he let intelligence, you know, override that took his immortality from him. Because really the nature of intelligence is to learn, and you can only learn by being curious about something. And that's kind of the symbolism with the great serpent, being an outer force, came in and told him, what do you think would happen if you ate that apple that you know God told you to never fuck with?
Man, you know, that it just reminded me of something I was reading in the Dead Sea Scroll book, where it's kind of like that when something gets knocked off balance, you know, it's destroyed. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's even a universal law. When something's knocked out of balance, it's fucking destroyed. You know what I mean? So, like, they were talking about how when the angels came down and the fallen angels and shit, you know what I mean, they made it with the women and all that, and they said that, you know, they were talking that was what knocked the balance off, and it had to be destroyed. So, you know, even that could be, I mean, it can be, I think it's both literal and, you know, it's both. Like, maybe that did happen because that was the manifestation of the something being on balance. I wish you damn kids
would take that shit down the hallway.
Sorry, bub.
What was the lady's name that lived on the corner up there? Right.
Well,
across the street from.
And you'll have that.
Not in the Sandersons, but the one
down
there that had the circle driveway. What was her name? Remember
from
her?
where?
In Indian Hills.
Well,
anyways.
Remember where the Sandersons lived?
Yes.
It was the lady
yeah,
that
a lot
lived
of it's symbolism, and then, you know, there's multiple other things you can go into, like the pentagram, the fucking blazing star, I mean, all that shit. We can go over all of it.
That's my dog right here, man.
Hell yeah.
Motherfucking Jacob Blue. That's my dog. What's going on, man?
You got anything intelligent to say for our viewers?
Hit us with some history.
Anything intelligent to say?
Yeah.